When I found out my daughter-in-law's secret, it shattered the very foundation of my family. I couldn't even wrap my mind around it. How could someone so close to me, someone I had welcomed into my life with open arms, betray me like this? It all began on an ordinary Tuesday, like any other day. The house was quiet, with the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background and the faint smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen. I was sitting in my favorite chair, the one by the window that overlooked the garden. I loved that spot, the way the morning light would spill across the room, casting a golden hue over the old oak floors. It was a place where I could breathe and think, a quiet escape from the busyness of life. The sound of the front door opening interrupted my thoughts. It was Carla, my son Darren's wife. She had just returned from a run, as usual, dressed in her workout gear, a smile on her face as she walked in. But there was something different in the air that day, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. "Morning, Auntie," she said, her voice light, almost too light. She always greeted me warmly, but that day, her tone felt off. "Morning, dear," I replied, trying to shake off the unease that settled in my chest. She placed her water bottle on the counter and started pulling out some fruit from the fridge. I watched her for a moment, noting the way her hands trembled slightly as she sliced the apples. It was subtle, but I noticed. Carla was usually so put together, confident even. She had a way of moving with a kind of ease, a calmness that I admired. But today, she seemed different. I couldn't tell if it was exhaustion, stress, or something else entirely. My instincts told me something wasn't right. As I sipped my coffee, I pushed the thought away. It had been a while since Darren and Carla had come over for a proper visit, and I was looking forward to spending some time with them. Maybe I was just imagining things. But then, a few days later, I stumbled across something that made my heart race in my chest. I hadn't meant to find it. It wasn't something I was looking for. It was a simple thing, really. A letter tucked away in a drawer that Carla had left behind after their last visit. She must have forgotten it. At first, I didn't think much of it, but something in me urged me to open it. The moment I saw the words, I felt the blood drain from my face. I don't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this. The letter was addressed to my son, Darren, from someone I didn't recognize. The words were clear, filled with a sense of urgency and raw emotion. It was a letter confessing something that had been hidden for far too long. The words jumped off the page like daggers. My hands shook as I read, each sentence heavier than the last. Carla had been keeping something from Darren, a secret she had carried for months, maybe even longer. I didn't want to believe it, but it was right there in front of me, staring back. The letter spoke of a past she had never mentioned. A past that she had kept hidden, not just from Darren, but from me as well. I tried to make sense of it, but the more I read, the more the pieces fell into place. Carla's entire life, it seemed, had been a lie. I put the letter down slowly, the weight of it pressing on my chest. My mind raced. How could this be true? Why hadn't she told us? Why hadn't she been honest? The next few days felt like a blur. Every time I saw Carla, I couldn't look at her the same way. There was a distance between us now, an invisible wall that hadn't been there before. I tried to act normal, but I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was terribly wrong. I knew I needed to confront her, but how could I? How do you confront someone you've known and trusted, someone you considered family, with a truth that could unravel everything? I tried to wait, tried to give myself time to process it all. But each passing day made the weight of her secret heavier. And then it happened. I saw her again, sitting at the dinner table with Darren, laughing about something trivial. The sight of them together used to bring me comfort, but now it only made my heart ache. How could she sit there, so calm, so composed, knowing what I knew? How could she live with that kind of secret? That night, after dinner, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I pulled her aside, away from the noise of the house, into the quiet hallway. My voice trembled as I asked her, "Carla, what is this about?" Her face went pale. She knew what I meant. She knew exactly what I had found. The moment I saw her reaction, I knew this wasn't something I was imagining. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This was real. Her eyes filled with guilt, and I saw the weight of it in her expression. She knew I had found out, and she knew I wasn't going to let it go. I can explain," she said softly, her voice trembling. I never meant for you to find out like this. Then tell me, Carla, I said, the anger rising in my chest. Tell me what's been going on. What have you been hiding? She hesitated, looking down at the floor before meeting my eyes. And then, in the quietest voice, she confessed. I wasn't honest with Darren. I wasn't honest with anyone. I felt my heart drop. There it was. The truth I had been dreading to hear. What do you mean? What aren't you telling him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. And then she told me. The words that followed shattered everything I thought I knew about her. Carla's words hung in the air, thick and suffocating, as she explained the truth. The weight of her confession settled on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I stood there, frozen, as she unfolded the story she had hidden for so long. It's about someone from my past, she began, her voice shaky. Before I met Darren, I was in a relationship. A serious one. But it ended badly. I didn't want anyone to know, especially Darren. I thought I could bury it, move on, and forget it ever happened. She paused, her eyes avoiding mine as if the weight of her confession was too much to bear. I thought I had moved on, but he came back into my life, she said, her voice trembling as the words spilled out. I didn't know how to tell Darren or you, Auntie. I was scared. I was afraid it would ruin everything. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I processed her words. Someone from her past had come back. And she had kept it hidden from Darren, her husband, my son, for months. But it wasn't just the fact that she had kept the secret that stung. It was the way she had hidden it, the way she had chosen to deceive everyone, to keep up the facade of a perfect life. Who is this man, Carla? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What exactly is going on? Her eyes filled with tears as she took a shaky breath. His name is Mark. He was the love of my life before Darren. But things fell apart and I couldn't move past it. I tried, I really did. But Mark came back into my life and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to hurt Darren and I didn't want you to look at me differently. A flood of emotions crashed over me, betrayal, confusion, hurt. How could she keep something so significant hidden for so long? How could she let this man, this past, interfere with her present? With Darren? With me? I'm so sorry, Auntie, she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't know what else to do. I was afraid. I was afraid of losing everything, losing Darren, losing you. I didn't want you to think badly of me. I took a deep breath, trying to process what she was telling me. The shock was overwhelming. My mind raced, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. I thought I knew her, this woman who had become a part of our family, who had shared holidays with us, who had laughed at our jokes and cried with us when life was tough. How could she have kept something like this hidden? So, what happens now, Carla? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm swirling inside me. What are you going to do? Are you going to tell Darren? She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't know, Auntie. I don't know how to tell him. I don't know how to fix this. I've already ruined everything. I could see the pain in her eyes, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. She had kept something so important from Darren, the man she had promised to love and cherish. And now, here she was, standing in front of me, telling me about a man from her past who had come back into the picture. You need to tell him, Carla, I said firmly, my heart heavy with the truth of what needed to happen. He deserves to know. You can't keep living like this, hiding secrets and pretending everything's fine. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to anyone. She nodded, her face crumpling with emotion. I know you're right, but I'm scared. I'm scared of losing him. I placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the tremor in her body. I know you're scared, but you have to do the right thing. For Darren's sake. For your sake. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't stop thinking about what Carla had confessed. I couldn't stop thinking about the pain Darren would feel when he learned the truth. I had always trusted Carla, believed in her, but now I was left wondering how much of that trust was real. How much of our lives had been built on lies. I watched Carla carefully in the days that followed. She was quiet, withdrawn, her usual warmth replaced with a distant air of guilt. She tried to carry on as if nothing had changed, but I could see the weight she was carrying, the burden of her secret, pressing down on her every time she spoke to Darren or looked him in the eyes. And then, one evening, Darren came to visit. He didn't know, not yet. He had no idea what had been going on behind closed doors, what his wife had been hiding from him. I could see the love in his eyes as he greeted Carla, the way he smiled at her, the way they shared small jokes over dinner. But something was different now. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow for him, knowing what he would soon face. After dinner, as they sat on the couch, talking about their plans for the weekend, I made the decision. It was time to step in. I couldn't let this continue any longer. Carla had to tell him the truth, no more hiding. But before I could say anything, I saw Carla's eyes flicker with panic. She knew what was coming. "I can't do it," she whispered to me, her voice barely audible. "I can't tell him. I don't know if I can fix this. I don't want to lose him." "You have to tell him, Carla," I said firmly, my voice low but resolute. "He deserves the truth. You owe him that much." She looked at me for a long moment, her face etched with fear and regret. And then, to my surprise, she nodded. "I'll tell him," she said quietly. "But I don't know how he'll react. I don't know if he'll forgive me." And so, in the quiet of that evening, with everything hanging in the balance, Carla finally made the decision. She would tell Darren everything. The secret that had been tearing at the edges of our family for so long would finally be laid bare. The truth would come to light, no matter how painful it was. The air in the house felt heavier the next morning. Carla barely slept, tossing and turning in the bed. We had shared countless nights of laughter, advice, and quiet comfort. I had watched her throughout the night, her eyes wide open, filled with the torment of the decision she had made. She knew it was time. She had to face Darren, but the fear of his reaction was evident in her every move. As the sun rose, I could hear the faint sound of Darren's footsteps as he moved about the house, his usual morning routine. He was making his coffee, humming softly to himself, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit. I watched Carla, who sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup like it was the only thing grounding her in that moment. "Carla, you've made the right choice," I said softly, trying to reassure her, though I, too, felt the weight of the unknown. "You've been carrying this burden for too long. He deserves the truth." "I know," she whispered, her voice cracking. "But I've always been afraid of how he would react. What if he hates me? What if this is the end?" I didn't know what to say to ease her fears. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the deep regret for not being honest sooner. But I also knew that the longer she kept the secret, the harder it would be. Secrets like this had a way of festering, destroying relationships from the inside out. Darren deserved to know, no matter how painful the truth was. After a long silence, she finally stood up, her hands shaking as she placed her empty cup in the sink. "I'll do it," she said, her voice trembling with determination. "I'll tell him." I nodded, my heart heavy as I watched her walk down the hallway to where Darren was. Every step she took felt like it echoed in my chest, the tension thick in the air. I stayed behind, unable to move, as I listened to the quiet exchange of words from the other room. When I heard the first words of the conversation, my heart stopped. "Darren," Carla began, her voice wavering as she spoke. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." I held my breath, every part of me on edge as I strained to hear their conversation. What would he say? How would he react? "I've been hiding something from you, something I should never have kept from you," she continued. "Before I met you, I had a relationship with someone else. A man named Mark. He was in my life long before you came along, and I thought I had put him in the past. But when he came back into my life, I couldn't figure out what to do." There was a pause, a long silence that stretched on longer than I could stand. And then Darren's voice, quiet but filled with shock, broke through the tension. "Carla, why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice thick with confusion and hurt. "Why keep this from me? Why hide it?" "I didn't want to hurt you, Darren," Carla replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was scared. Scared that you wouldn't understand, that you'd think I was still in love with him. But I'm not. I love you. I always have. It was just something I couldn't let go of. I didn't know how to tell you, how to face you with this. I could hear the pain in her voice, and I could feel Darren's confusion from where I stood. The rawness of the moment was almost too much to bear. But this was it. This was the moment of reckoning. The silence stretched on again, but this time it was broken by Darren's voice, hoarse and trembling with emotion. "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me this? Why keep it from me all this time?" he asked, his voice faltering as if the weight of her secret was too much for him to bear. "I thought I was protecting you," Carla whispered, tears choking her words. "I didn't want you to see me differently. I didn't want to lose you. I thought if I kept it hidden, everything would be okay." Darren's response came slowly, his voice barely audible. "You didn't trust me enough to be honest with me. You didn't trust me enough to let me in. How could you think that would work?" I heard the sound of a chair scraping against the floor, and I knew that Darren had stood up. I could feel his hurt, his confusion, even though I wasn't in the room with them. And then, to my surprise, I heard him speak again, his voice softer now. "I don't know how to process this, Carla. I don't know how to fix it. But we need to talk more. This isn't something we can just ignore." There was another long pause, the silence stretching between them, heavy with unspoken words. I stood frozen, feeling the weight of what was unfolding. Carla had told him the truth, but now the real work began. They had to figure out where to go from here. Could their marriage survive this? Could they rebuild the trust that had been shattered? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard Carla's voice again. "I'm so sorry, Darren. I never meant to hurt you. I love you more than anything. I want to make this right." "I don't know if it can be fixed, Carla," Darren said, his voice strained with emotion. "I need time to think. I need to process everything." I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, knowing that their relationship, the one I had seen as so perfect, was now in jeopardy. The truth had come out, but it had torn them apart. Could they find a way back to each other? Could they rebuild what had been lost? As the day wore on, Carla stayed in the room, not knowing what to do or say next. Darren, too, was quiet. The house felt empty, despite the people in it. The air was thick with the weight of unspoken words, of confusion, and of a love that had been tested in a way neither of them expected. The following days were like walking through thick fog. Nothing seemed clear anymore. Darren and Carla barely spoke to each other, their conversation strained and awkward, each word laden with the tension of what had been revealed. The house, once a place of warmth and laughter, now felt like a cold, unfamiliar space. The silence between them was deafening. I watched from the sidelines, unable to intervene. This was their battle to fight, their pain to endure. But as a mother-in-law, my heart broke for both of them. Darren spent his days working late, coming home only to retreat into his thoughts. Carla, on the other hand, seemed to have withdrawn even further into herself. The woman who had once been so full of life, who had always kept our family together, now moved through the house like a ghost. She kept to herself, her eyes clouded with guilt, her movements slow, as if the weight of her secret was pressing down on her. One evening, after a long day of silence, I found myself sitting in the living room, trying to read, but unable to focus. I could hear Darren in the kitchen, the clink of pots and pans as he prepared dinner. He hadn't said much to Carla all day, but I could tell he was trying to keep it together, trying to hold on to something, anything, that might bring some semblance of normalcy back. Carla sat beside me, her eyes downcast, her hands trembling slightly as she picked at the hem of her sweater. She hadn't spoken much since their confrontation, but now she turned to me, her voice soft. "Auntie, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can fix this. What if Darren can't forgive me?" Her words were barely above a whisper, filled with despair. I placed my hand on hers, giving her a comforting squeeze. "You've already taken the first step, Carla. You've told him the truth. That's something. But now it's about giving him space, time to process. This is going to take time. But you can't carry the weight of this alone anymore. You have to trust him enough to let him heal, too. I just don't know if he'll ever trust me again," she said, her voice breaking. "What if this is the end of us?" I sighed, the heaviness of the situation settling into my bones. It might take time for him to forgive you, but if you truly want to rebuild your relationship, you'll both have to put in the work. Trust can be broken, but it can also be rebuilt. It's not easy, but if both of you are willing to try, there's hope. She nodded slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I want to try, Auntie. I want to make it right. I love him so much. I know you do, I said softly. But love isn't always enough. You have to show him, with your actions, that you're committed to making things better. It was a hard truth, one I didn't want to say out loud. But I knew it was necessary. Love alone couldn't fix the mess Carla had created. It would take more trust, patience, and the willingness to face the consequences of her actions. Could they do it? Could they rebuild? The days that followed were filled with tentative steps toward healing. Carla reached out to Darren, trying to make amends, but he remained distant. He was hurt, and understandably so. The emotional damage caused by betrayal didn't heal overnight. They didn't talk much, but I could see that Carla was doing her best to show him that she was committed to rebuilding what had been broken. She left small notes for him, reminders of the love they had shared, gestures of kindness that spoke louder than words. One afternoon, I overheard Darren speaking to a friend on the phone. His voice was quieter than usual, and there was a heaviness in his words. I don't know what to do anymore. I love her, but I don't know if I can get past this. I don't know if I can trust her again. It broke my heart to hear him like that. The man I had raised, the man who had once been so full of confidence, now sounded lost and unsure. I knew that the path to healing wouldn't be easy for him either. He had to process his own pain, his own feelings of betrayal. But then, something unexpected happened. A week later, Carla came to me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Auntie, she said, her voice shaking. Darren asked me to meet him tonight. He wants to talk. My heart skipped a beat. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment that would decide the fate of their marriage. What did he say? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't say much, but I think he's ready to listen. He's ready to hear me out. I don't know what will happen after that, but I'm going to tell him everything. I'm going to be completely honest. I could see the determination in her eyes, the desire to make things right. It wasn't going to be easy, but this was a step forward. That evening, Carla and Darren sat down together, alone in the living room. I stayed out of sight, giving them the space they needed. I could hear bits and pieces of their conversation, but I couldn't make out the words. I didn't need to hear everything. I just needed to trust that they were trying to find a way back to each other. An hour later, I heard the door creak open, and Darren emerged from the room. His face was tired, but there was a glimmer of something in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Or at least the beginning of it. He walked over to me, and for the first time in days, he smiled. Thanks, Auntie, he said quietly, his voice softer than usual. I think we're going to be okay. My heart swelled with relief. It wasn't over yet, but it was a start. They had taken the first step toward healing, and that was all I could ask for. As the days passed, I could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't instantaneous, and it wasn't perfect, but there was a quiet transformation happening between Carla and Darren. They still had their difficult moments, long silences, awkward pauses, but they were talking again. They were trying, in their own way, to rebuild the trust that had been broken. I watched them with cautious hope, unsure of what would come next, but believing in the possibility of healing. Carla, to her credit, didn't back down. She kept reaching out to Darren, showing him with her actions that she was serious about fixing things. She started to show him, in small ways, how much she truly valued their life together. She took on more responsibilities at home, cooked Darren's favorite meals, and found new ways to surprise him, reminding him of the love they once shared. Darren, too, was trying, though it wasn't easy. The wound was still fresh, and every conversation felt like a test. But I could see that he was listening, truly listening, to Carla. He wasn't just going through the motions anymore. He was engaging with her, opening himself up to the possibility of forgiveness. But forgiveness, I knew, was never something that could be rushed. It wasn't a switch you could just flip. It was something that needed time, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. And as much as I wanted them to find peace, I understood that they both had to navigate this difficult journey on their own terms. One evening, after a particularly tense conversation, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, reflecting on everything that had happened. I could still hear Darren and Carla talking in the kitchen, but their voices were softer now, less filled with the tension that had once consumed them. I smiled to myself, grateful for the progress they had made. But a part of me still wondered, would things ever truly go back to the way they were? Could Carla's secret ever be completely forgiven? The answer, of course, was no. Things would never be the same. The truth had changed them all. But that didn't mean it was the end. Sometimes, the cracks in a relationship are where the light gets in, as they say. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something better. A few weeks later, Darren pulled me aside one evening, his expression serious but open. Carla was in the other room, and I could tell he wanted to talk to me alone. "I just wanted to thank you," he said, his voice steady but with an undertone of emotion I hadn't heard from him in a while. "For being there for us. For helping me see what I needed to see. I don't know what would have happened without you." I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to say that I had done nothing, that they were the ones who had done the hard work, but I knew what he meant. He wasn't thanking me for solving their problems, no one could do that. He was thanking me for being a steady presence, for giving him the space to figure things out, and for encouraging him to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. "I didn't do much, Darren," I said quietly, my heart swelling with a mixture of pride and humility. "I just reminded you of what you already knew. That love and honesty go hand in hand. It's not easy, but you'll find your way through this, both of you." He nodded, his eyes a little misty as he spoke again. "I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why Carla kept this from me, but I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to believe in us again." I could see the sincerity in his eyes. And for the first time in weeks, I believed that he might be able to forgive her, that he might be able to rebuild his trust in her. The journey wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the first steps toward healing had been taken. Later that evening, Darren and Carla sat together on the couch, talking softly, their heads close together. I could tell there was still a distance between them, a gap that couldn't be bridged in a day, but there was a tenderness there too. A shared understanding that they were both committed to moving forward, no matter how hard it might be. As I watched them, a sense of peace settled over me. The road ahead would be difficult. There would be more challenges, more moments of doubt. But they were both trying, and that was all anyone could ask for. A few months later, I received a phone call from Carla. Her voice was soft, but there was a lightness to it that hadn't been there before. "I wanted to tell you something, Auntie," she said, her words slow but full of meaning. "Darren and I, we're doing better. We're talking more. We're starting to heal. I just wanted to thank you for not giving up on us." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest. "I never gave up on you, Carla, but you both had to do the hard work. And I'm proud of you for doing it." And with that, a sense of peace settled over me. I had watched Carla and Darren face a darkness I never thought they would have to endure. I had seen their relationship tested in ways I hadn't imagined. But I had also seen them fight for each other, fight for their marriage. And in that fight, I knew they would find their way. Would you have done what I did? I ask you, my friends, as I close this chapter of our journey together. Would you have faced the truth, no matter how painful it was? Would you have fought for the ones you love? I'll leave you with that thought, as I remind you, healing is never easy, but it's always possible if we're willing to put in the work. Subscribe to stay connected, and tell me your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in their shoes?